34 years now, Joan Weston has dominated the bank track sport of roller derby, and through all of its ups and downs, and although she suffered countless injuries and setbacks, she's still skating today with the same stamina and enthusiasm that won her the hearts of millions and made her a superstar years ago. Let's go back in time now to the year 1973 as we watch Joan Weston, wearing number 59 for the Pioneers, do battle against the Jolters in this championship playoff game.
Here comes Francine Chasuk, one of the finest little skaters in the league. Francine, 55. Jan Vallow, Pam Knievel to help her block. There's a block on Chasuk. Now Joan Weston getting back there where she can give her teammates some help. We have 35 seconds left in this period. Buddy Sr. talking to Weston on the track. Man, this guy's right in the middle of everything. Weston's telling Chasuk to move up. They can't block way back there behind the pack. Weston ready. She did it. 2 points in there for Chasuk. Hey, I thought she cut it off. Because she did not, and Weston throws herself. She might have got 5. She did. 5 points in there. Chasuk throwing Vallow over the rail. Buddy Sr. pushes Chasuk away. He wants to keep her in a game. He's patting. Look at him. Hug of Chasuk over there. Joan Weston with the key blocks that time. As only she can do it.
We recently spoke with this woman they call the Golden Girl in the infield of her roller derby training center in Hayward, California, where she revealed how she discovered roller derby while watching television.
Well, I was born and raised in Southern California, a little town called Huntington Park, and went to Catholic school and saw roller derby on television.
That was your first?
That would be fun.
Did you just happen to turn the dial one day, or were you watching with your grandmother or your mother?
Well, what happened was I had asthma all my life. I was always real sickly, and my grandfather let my grandmother be the boss until I was about 7 or 8 years old, and he came in one afternoon and threw away the dolls and threw away the Atkins and went out and bought me a baseball glove and a baseball and a bicycle and a basketball and all this other kind of stuff. And he told my grandmother, "You've had your chance, now it's my turn. You know, we'll see if this works."
Right.
Because I had been in and out of the hospital many, many times as a child with asthma, with bronchitis and things like that. And from the minute Grandpa took over, I just sprouted. I just grew, probably grew a foot in a year and a half.
Is that right?
Yeah. He hired a fellow that used to play AAA ball in California to teach me how to play softball. So to answer your question, I was always in quest of another sporting event on the tube. And I happened to see roller derby one day.
Oh, that's interesting.
I got very interested in it.
Before we get into that, you mentioned your grandfather and your grandmother. Did they raise you?
More or less, most of the time. My mother worked. My mother and father were separated when I was very young, and my mother worked most of the time. So I spent most of my time with my grandma and grandpa.
Oh, I see. So you were flipping the dial one day, and there it was.
There it was.
Who was it? Do you remember the team?
The foggiest idea. I couldn't begin to tell you who it was. I just looked at it and I thought, well, gee, that looks like fun. I think I can do that. Of course, I roller skated. You know, everybody in California roller skates. And I watched it for a little bit and I thought, you know, very interesting.
Right.
So I went searching for it then after that. I would go looking for it on television. And in those days, they used to, you know, the big signs they have outside, they used to put a big oval on the sign.
Oh,
with
right.
no words, nothing. And everybody in town would be looking at the sign. What are they talking about? You know, what is this oval thing? And then they would print across it, Tuffy is back.
Tuffy
Brazoon, right. And then later on, as it got closer to the time that they were actually coming to town, then they would start to put down Pan Pacific Auditorium and the dates.
Oh, great.
And I used to try to get to go. I used to go around all the grocery stores and steal all the discount tickets. They used to put out discount tickets in those days. So I'd go to all the little stores and I'd pick up all the discount tickets and stick them in my pocket. And then when it opened, I would find some friends or something and I would go. We just about went almost every night of the week.
Is that right? So then, you were how old at that period?
Probably about 16.
And at that point, did you say to yourself, you want to try that?
Oh yeah. Oh, I had decided that.
So what did you do about that?
Well, we used to go down to the building in the daytime once in a while and see what was going on. And we knew that they were having training classes down there, you know, for a lot of the pros that were still training.
And was this at the Rose Bowl?
No, this at that time was at the Pan Pacific Auditorium.
Pan Pacific.
No, the Rose Bowl comes later, but the Rose Bowl was lucky. We'd go down and they'd be having their training class or whatever, you know, and we couldn't get anywhere near the track. So when they did go into the Rose Bowl, as luck would have it, a friend of mine was a groundskeeper.
Oh.
So we used to go, this girl and I, from school, we used to go take my mother to work in the morning, make little thermoses of coffee and hot chocolate, And off we would go to the Rose Bowl, and he would let us in. And we'd be out on the track probably about 6:30, something like that. We'd skate until the pros came down to train, and then we'd go up in the bleachers and we'd hide. So whatever it was that the coach was yelling at these people that were training, we would be hearing, see. And then after they would leave, we'd come down and we'd try to skate some more.
Oh, I see. Now, weren't you supposed to be in school at this time?
Summer.
Oh, I see. Now, did your mom know that that's where you were going? What did she think about roller derby?
Oh, it was nonsense.
Did
She thought it was nonsense the first 20 years. The first 20 years I used to get, "You're a gypsy bum. When are you going to come home and get a job?" And I used to say, "Mom, what am I doing if I don't have a job? What am I doing?" You know.
And was she serious about this? Did she really worry about you all the time?
Serious. Deadly serious. She never really cared that much for travel herself. She was not a great traveler.
Oh.
You know, she's one of these people that was, she was born in San Francisco, moved to Los Angeles, and
Were you a natural when you started? Once you hit that tracker, did it take you a little time when you went down there and tried it out?
I had the normal problems that most people have when you first get on it, you know, being hard to stay on. And then when you start going around a little faster, you have the necessity to cross your feet. That was a little difficult in the very beginning. But what I did that was really cute was when they opened the training center at the Exposition Building in Los Angeles and they had the professional coaches down there, I went in like I had never seen a track before. Right? Now I've been spending all the time at the Rose Bowl, so I'm walking the door and I go, "Oh, looks nice, looks interesting." You know, and I get on the track, and of course by then I could skate a little bit. And they're all going, "Wow, this kid is a natural." You know, and I thought, fine, you know, go for it, whatever you think. But that was it. That was the training center. They had it going on in the Exposition Building. Ken Monty, Jules Ilias, people like that.
And they were your coaches at that time? How long did it take you then to graduate to a pro team?
4 days. Yeah, that was really cute. No, Russ Mathro was the coach that time, and he had an argument with one of his girls. I can't remember which one it was. I don't remember if it was Beverly Wallace or Joan Kazmersky. And he came into the infield just yelling and screaming and just, "Get off the track," you know. And he came down to the school the next day, and he says, "You, come on." And I thought, oh, gee, you know. So I immediately went out and sat in the infield, sat in the bench, just sit there and wait, you know, for somebody to break a skate or maybe hurt themselves when they fall or something, so you get a chance to get out on the track and skate. But first night, I took down both teams in changeover. That was one thing they thought they'd let me do was changeover.
Oh, great. And
so I went out there and I slipped and I fell and boom, 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 bodies are falling. So I thought, well, another 15 years I might get on the track again. You know?
But this was after only 4 days. I mean, what do they want?
So, well, no, they weren't too disappointed.
But your first team that you were assigned to was what?
Well, I just went out on a trial basis out of the training school. I skated for the Panthers for maybe 4 or 5 days, something like that. And then I went on to the Brooklyn Red Devils with Tucker Brazoon and Ken Monty.
Right. How was that with the two of them? Were they your mentors?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. Tucker Brazoon was just incredible. Ken Monty was a great coach. At times he tended to be a little impatient with the girls because his physical ability was so much that he couldn't understand somebody that had lesser ability. And I don't think the man ever put on his skates that he didn't give 150% of what he had.
Oh, is that right?
And if you dogged it, I mean, you were just dead in Kenny's eyes. I mean, he was just really tough. And Midge, I used to tickle Midge to death. Midge laughed so hard at me so many times. It was unreal. She was having trouble one night with a shoe polish jar. And I says, no, Midge, let me get that. So I showed her how to shake it, you know, to use this particular shoe polish. So then I got down, you know, in front of Midge, and I'm polishing her skates. And she's standing there with her arms folded, and she says, "Get up." And I says, "What's the matter, Midge?" She says, "Just get up." I thought, okay, fine. And then when I got up and I went and I sat in the chair, she says, "Do you know how that would look to any of those people on any of those other teams that happened to walk by this room? They'd never thought of that. You know, we were just trying to know how to use the shoe polish." Yeah, it was terrific. And then I took my first trip with them. We went to Hawaii, and I played pinochle for 2.5 weeks. They were avid pinochle players. That Kenny would go down to the training school, and he would take 2 or 3 new kids over to the side, and he'd say, "Do you play pinochle? Do you play pinochle? Do you play pinochle?" And the one that could play would be the one that got picked up. So I played pinochle the whole time I was in Hawaii.
But do you still play pinochle?
Oh yeah,
Oh, you do?
Once in a great while.
I thought maybe you might be a little tired of it.
Oh
by
no,
now.
we all love pinochle. We used to have biggest floating pinochle party in the world. Used to be on the road.
Really? Did you make some money from that?
No,
No.
I don't bet on anything. Maybe a horse, but
That's about it. Now, you were on the Red Devils for how long?
gee, I don't know, maybe a year.
A year. And then do you remember, what was the chronology? Then tell me the teams that you went to from there.
Well, I went from the Red Devils to the Los Angeles Braves
Okay.
in LA, and that's when I started getting the fan club and all of that other, notoriety and
Right.
everything, which was kind of strange because the team was absolutely loaded. I mean, it had the most talent you've ever seen in your life. And but I used to play. I used to play with the fans,
Right.
and they'd bring me silly hats to put on, and I put them on.
Right.
Who cared if I only skated 3 minutes in the game? And I had a fan club. I used to answer all my fan mail. I used to go to parties with them. They'd have these little afternoon thingies with all the little kids, and I'd go. It was a lot of fun.
Did you know at the time, though, that was all starting that, gee, I'm becoming a
No,
superstar?
no.
Did you even think of it?
Furthest thing
Or were
from
you
my
having
mind.
fun?
I was just having fun. Furthest thing from my mind.
Well, were other women on the team, or were you even aware of the jealousies and that type of thing that happened?
I don't think there was any. I really don't
Is that
think
right?
there was. No, when you talk about people like Mary Uppel, Jeannie Porter, Joyce Beasley, Mary Lou Palermo, Julie Patrick, I mean, these were people that are above jealousy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that just did not come to play in their scheme of things at all.
And they were stars at that time in their own right anyway, so they were not...
They were established skaters. They had their families. They had other things going on for them. And if this kid wants to play with the kids, that's fine. So there was no problem.
None of that. So then, when did you hit the Bombers? When did you get onto that team?
Well, I left the Braves and I went
Right.
to Japan, went to Australia, and then I went to the Chiefs in New York.
Oh, New York
I was on the Chiefs in New York for a couple of years. I skated there with Gary Murray, and then I went to the Devils again.
Right.
And at that time, Midge was nearing the end of her career, and I was captain of the Devils, and they brought her back and put her on the team under me.
Oh, jeez.
Absolutely freaked me out. Just absolutely blew me away. I didn't know what to say to her. I didn't know how to talk to her, and the whole thing. What could I say? And then they started traveling. They started going on the road. Nana Stenson wouldn't travel because she had a family and she had a business here. And I used to come on the Bombers and travel in the East with the Bombers. And then when the season would start up again, I would go on the Westerners or some other team, and Annis would be back skating on the Bombers. So I was not totally foreign to the Bomber team when I came on the team in '63.
Did you want to come on the Bomber team at that point? Or...
Well, I was very confused. I really didn't know. I didn't know what was a better move for me to make at that time. And in the beginning, it was for a couple of years. Well, a couple of years.
Couple of years, and you were there.
But it was a pretty good move. It was a good move. Financially wise, it was a good move. And then I moved up to the Bay Area.
Right. Now, how did it come about, these nicknames that they threw around with you?
Wow.
I mean, my favorite was, the Golden Girl was not my favorite. My favorite was the Blonde Amazon.
That was Walt Harris, I believe, did that.
He came up with that one.
Either Walt Harris or Dick Lane. I don't remember who did that. The Blonde Amazon, the Blonde Bombshell, oh, gee.
The Golden Girl, how did that one come about?
I have the foggiest idea.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who started it.
Was it before the Bombers or right around that time?
It seems to me it was before the Bombers. I think it was in a program or something.
Okay.
Before that.
Let me ask you one thing. When you went into roller derby and you started traveling, going on the road, you left the boyfriend at one point when you started. How was that? Was that your first love? And then you had
That was tough decision time.
Yeah.
That was really tough decision time. It was the right one. He's very happily married. He has 4 or 5 children at this point. We're still friends. But I wanted to travel. I wanted to go and see all the places that my mother thought were on the moon. And that was tough. That was tough at that time. But
you remember your first track romance? Did you have many roller derby romances?
There wasn't a girl that came out of that training school in Los Angeles that didn't have a crush on Ken Lonnie.
Okay.
There wasn't one. And then I remember when O'Connell came in. When we first saw O'Connell was from New York.
Uh-huh.
You know, he'd been picked up out of junior roller derby. He only skated in the East. And while the boys' attitude was, well, let me see what this O'Connell's got. You know, the girls are all saying, oh, let's see what Charlie looks like. You know, it was kind of cute.
Okay.
It was kind of cute. Now, those things are cute now.
Uh-huh.
They're very fond memories. Kind of funny.
But you're glad they're over?
Yeah.
When a new guy comes on the scene, do you still have an eye for him, you know?
You when you don't have an eye for a good-looking person of the opposite sex, just hope and get Tom Selleck to come down here and skate. I mean, you know.
Is that right?
Oh, boy. Me and Barbara argue over Tom Selleck all the time, but that's okay.
We have a surprise for you. Tom? No, just kidding. Let me ask you, though, on the road, that's got to be tough, though. I mean, you're with these people 24 hours a day, and then you're skating with them. What is it like if you're going with a guy, you break up with a guy, and then he's going with another girl? And,
it's the pitch.
It's got to be the worst.
Oh, I've seen it happen. I got in the middle of one of those things one time. The people shall remain nameless because I don't want to get bombed or anything.
Inquiring minds want to know.
This guy and girl had a beef. I had to get in her car and drive her car while she sat in the back. He sat in the front, and nobody talked for 300 miles. I says, no, I don't think this is it. I know this. No, we got to change this around. Yeah, things like that were uncomfortable. A lot of times, you'd have situations like that would be carried over onto the track, and you know, it's kind of a sticky wicket. You didn't want to get yourself in the middle of it, and you know, feelings would be hurt on both people's sides. And then once in a while, the office would figure it's better to just take this person away from here, you know, and those things are going to happen anytime you have human beings together.
And they just put them on different teams.
Just put them on different teams.
And that type of thing. Sure. And wait till romance to blossom again.
Sure.
As far as those road trips went, now, tell me, how many miles in 34 years do you think you've gone? How many times around the world would that equal?
Go to the moon.
I mean, it must be.
We drove the real traveling years when we used to go on the road from here and be gone all winter. Mm-hmm. We put 90,000 miles on a car in 1 year. So, you know, my mother used to give me the business about, oh, my daughter, the big shot, a new car every year. You have to have a new car. You know, 100,000 miles later, it's ready to die, and you've only had it a year.
What kind of cars did you use? Were they Chevrolets?
It was impossible.
Station wagons?
I was in the Chevy group. I started with a 50, I went to a 56, and then it started. 61, a 62, a 63, a 65, a 66. You know, on and on and on.
Right.
You have to understand this. See, now behind him was a map of the United States.
Is it Jerry Seltzer you're talking about?
And Jerry Seltzer used to stand like this and used to go like this with a dart. Saying wherever that dart landed, that's where you skated. Oh. No, I'm kidding. But that's the way it seemed like on the road. Most of the trip, he used to tell us all the time, there won't be a trip over 200 miles. The first game was in Albuquerque, you know, or the first game was in Denver.
Oh.
And they'd say, well, no, that's just the first one. That's just a start. So we'd sit there. Okay. But usually they averaged from 200 to maybe 300 miles a day. Mm-hmm. And we skated 5 different towns in a week, and we had 2 days off.
Oh.
Now, it might have been a split, too, you know, maybe a Tuesday off and a Thursday off or something like that.
Let me ask you, and you must tell me, which town do you wish you would never see again? Is there any town that you went to that you just could not understand why you were in this town?
You know, that's really funny. Most people ask, which town did you like the most? And you want to know the one you like the least.
That's right.
That's weird.
Well,
I just got to tell somebody about your business. I can't, I have none. I have absolutely none that I would categorize like that.
What about your favorite thing, as far as fan-wise, to be around?
Oh, roller derby fans are roller derby fans no matter where they are. I don't care what city in the country they are. They're the same. Mm-hmm. They enjoy the skaters. They feel like they know the skaters. I don't know, maybe it's the way we're televised. Who knows? Mm-hmm. They feel like they know you and they're friendly towards you. Or on the other hand, they don't like you, you know, which is their prerogative. But they're all very warm. They're very excited about having the game there. The people in Madison Square Garden are great to skate for. The people in Chicago are incredible to skate for.
You skated there with 50,000 fans one time, didn't you, back in 72?
Scary proposition. Very scary. I mean, 50,000 people. Can you imagine 50,000 people going, yay, at the same time? Will scare you right back into the dressing room.
Do you still get nervous when you go to a game?
You have to. If you ever reach the point where you don't get nervous before a game, you're careless or you're stupid.
What do you do then? Is there something you do, meditation or?
Well, you just get out and warm up, and you put it into perspective. You know, if it's 2,000 people in Modesto, or if it's 20,000 people in the Chicago amphitheater, you go out and warm up, and you try to block it out, and do what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, through your warm-up period, you've got to get over your nerves a little bit. You might be nervous on the line when the whistle blows. Maybe the first jam you're a little nervous. After that, you're fine.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Your first game you skated, do you remember being really nervous on that one?
Oh, paralyzed. Paralyzed.
More than the first jam, right?
Yeah. Nerves. That's not nerves. That's a nervous breakdown. Your first game. Yeah. Oh, you know, a lot of people get upset with the kids from the school when they skate their first game, and I have to remind them, remember yours.
Is there anything you haven't seen in the United States that you want to see?
There's a couple I'd like to go back because I didn't have sufficient time.
Mm-hmm.
But
where would you like to go back?
One cutie was Appomattox Courthouse, driving down the road, 2-3 cars behind me, and I see the sign, Appomattox Courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
So I turn left, and these other cars follow behind me. And I get down the road a piece, and here's this big sign, National Park, whatever. And I go to turn in. 3 cars behind me come to a screeching halt in the middle of the road, make a U-turn, and go back and get on the I just died. I said, well, evidently they didn't want to go to the They didn't know where I was going. They were just following me. And they used to call Hal Janowitz and myself Ward and Wanda Bond. Remember Wagon Train?
Yeah.
Now that was Ward and Wanda Bond. So we'd get out on the highway, and if we, you know, it seemed like no matter when we left, we'd end up with 2 or 3 other cars behind us. Because the kids would feel, well, they're not going to get lost, we'll follow them. You know. And they would follow along, but then I would pull off at one of my touristy sites, and the kids would just flip.
Is that they didn't have your interest?
No, weren't interested at all. Either weren't interested, didn't want to take the time, or had other things to do when they got into town, you know. And
they probably wish they had now. I mean, to see it for free.
Well, you know, a lot of the things I like, other people don't like. You know, like Appomattox Courthouse, FDR's house in Warm Springs. I stopped at all the presidential libraries, and two of my big sightseeing things was the museum in Chicago, Science and Industry, which was incredible. I used to take all the new kids there. And Rock City in Tennessee. Everybody used to love that, Lookout Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
That was terrific.
Oh, great.
And then down in Florida, we had several places we liked to go in Florida. And, you know, not to mention New York, Williamsburg, all these places.
So, now, how much film did you take?
Thousands of feet. If you ever heard of Fibber McGee and Molly's Closet, that's a good movie film.
Is that how you are now with all the stuff piled high in your closet?
I'm telling you. Well, I used to get sick once a year. Maybe once a year I'd get a real bad case of the flu, you know, and I'd be in bed. So I'd grab out all these boxes and I'd start putting it in photograph albums. I haven't had the flu now for about the last 15, 20 years. I don't even want to discuss the boxes. I mean, there's just one on top of another. The movie film, I've got to, I'm in the process now of going through the movie film and getting it put onto tape.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, the movie film only lasts just so long.
Right.
Every time I look at anything now, it starts to break on me. So it's time to get it all set on tape.
Put on the tape. Now, let me ask you something. On the road there, did you ever get lonely? For a long time, you weren't married and that type of thing. Did you ever get lonely, or did you always have the other skaters around you?
Always had a lot of people around, and I always took my dog.
Oh, right.
My dogs probably saw more of this country than most people, because I always had a dog with me. And then I always had, you know, people like Barbara Baker, Carol and Jackie. Mm-hmm. And our night off would be our do the hair, do the nails, facial. We'd come back with these mud cats. And we'd just have a girly night, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We'd just really have a good time. And we'd iron this, and we'd critique that. And then, of course, we'd hit the shopping mall.
Oh.
Don't even have to discuss the shopping mall. With Baker and Gorilla. You know, if there's a shopping mall within 90 miles, they'll find it.
Well, they must have hated when you went to the Grand Canyon and there were none around.
It wasn't a mall in sight. Not a mall.
Now you mentioned you're not getting ill that often. How many games do you think you've missed in your career?
Games I've missed. Well, I didn't really miss an awful lot of games. Individual games, maybe, for just little paltry things, well, maybe 8 or 10.
Yeah.
But I did have a couple of really bad injuries that I was off, like with my collarbone.
Mm-hmm. How did that happen?
I was on the track, and a girl jumped on me and drove my collarbone out of the socket here, which was only the second time our doctor had ever seen that type of an injury. And it went in the front over here, and it tore all the muscles and everything in the back. So this was an incredible bracing system here to pull all this together. And it was, that was pretty painful.
And that, you were up for how long with that?
Well, I think a year. It seemed like
really?
It was 7, 8 months, something like that. It was a pretty long time.
Who did it?
I'll never tell.
Is that right?
Nope.
All right, fine. Be that way.
No.
Inquiring mind, whisper to me.
No, actually, it's irrelevant. It did happen skating.
Yeah. Have you ever heard? I'm sure it wasn't on purpose anyway. But have you ever heard anyone and had to go up to them later on and
No. Mm-mm. No, I hurt one girl one night, and I got sick because I hurt her ankle snap.
Oof.
And I must have turned sheet white, and it was someplace like Providence, Rhode Island, I think. And I went into the infield, and I was just white. And Bill Morrissey came over, and he says, "You did not do that. She did that herself."
Is that right?
Yeah. She was coming in on a jam, and I was blocking her out at the back of the pack, but she was one of these people that had the habit of skating real high on the kick rail. And I was trying to stay low, but
right.
I couldn't let her by me either. And I tried to keep her down, but I couldn't keep her down. She hit her ankle, and just a sickening crunch.
Ugh.
Just the kind that really turns your stomach. But that was the only one that was a real bad injury.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, your private life. You were involved in politics for a while. You worked on both the John Kennedy campaign and the Robert Kennedy campaign.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in those?
Gee, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't remember the circumstances that happened with John. Then with the Bobby campaign, I was approached by the campaign people up here. Mm-hmm. And I went in, I worked in the office, and then I worked in Hawaii. I'd gone over to Hawaii also. And I had worked over there, and that was this fellow that we knew that was running over there, Sparks Matsunaga, years ago. And I worked in the office there, and then I worked here also. We were all involved. We were in a complex in San Leandro, and there was a lot of us that belonged to the Young Democrat Club of San Leandro. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of natural to fall into the campaign. Yeah.
Have you been involved in politics since?
No.
Do you have any desire to?
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah. None. There's such a controversy about what happened in 1973. Why did roller derby fold? It was there one day, and the next minute it wasn't there. What happened?
If somebody could actually tell me, I would like to know too. Okay, that's the basis that I'll start this story. We were skating in New Haven, Connecticut. And Jerry Seltzer had come in and he had called a meeting. And as I went in, I remember saying something to Jan, what's this about? And Jan says, it's pretty bad. And I thought, oh, wonderful. So I went into the meeting, and Jerry just stood in front of the room, in front of everybody, and said, whatever the date was, and whatever the next date was, roller derby will cease to exist. Well, you take 35 people and hit each one with a wet mop, you're going to get the same reaction. I was just stunned silence. And then after everybody started to regroup a little bit, there were so many questions, the whys and all of this stuff. And Charlie says to me, I need a drink. And Charlie went out the door. And I remember just sitting there thinking, what happened? And I was too embarrassed to ask Jerry anything. So I went up to him and I says, Jerry, you know, I don't know what anybody else has said to you, but I'm sorry. And he said something to me quite nice, and then I left, and that was that. So we went to the dressing room that night, and that night was our last game. It's probably the greatest single game of roller derby ever skated anywhere. And unfortunately, it was not on tape.
Who were you skating against? Do you recall?
I don't know. Farmers and somebody.
So,
I don't remember.
it must have been terrible in the locker room that night after the game to know that you probably thought you skated your last stride.
Everyone was comatose. I mean, you know. But when they went out and skated, it was like every single solitary person out there was skating for themselves.
Mm.
You know, this is who I am, this is what I am, this is what I can do.
Right.
And every move was exciting. I mean, the game was just great. I sat in the infield watching the boys. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was just incredible. And that was the end of it.
So you all went back to the locker room. Did you talk much?
No, I don't think anybody said a word.
Did you just get in your cars and drive back to California? Or?
No, Jerry had sold our contracts to Los Angeles organization.
Mm-hmm.
And he called a meeting the next day, and he was to upgrade his skating to become our game. Mm-hmm. And we were going to continue to skate roller derby as it was known. And 4 or 5 of the skaters right off the top said, no, don't believe that in a minute.
This was the Roller Games outfit you're referring to.
Yeah. And 4 or 5 of the kids went home immediately.
Hmm.
A couple lasted a few more days. And I went on to the T-Birds. Charlie and I both went on to the T-Birds, and we went down to Philadelphia. And it was not working. I mean, it was not skating like we thought it would be. And we had a very funny instance. There was a doubleheader in Philadelphia. And I don't remember what teams we were on or anything, but Mike and Judy and Nick and myself were in the first game. Mm-hmm. So we left, and we went across the street to this old English pub, and we're sitting there. And I turned around. Charlie was supposed to be skating the second game. And whenever Charlie skated, we had a ball, we were in the audience. We'd be in the audience.
Oh, wow.
And we used to just have a ball.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Charlie, I got to tell you. Well, we're sitting in this pub, and I turned my head around, and I says, gee, that guy looks like Charlie. You know, but I knew Charlie was skating the second game.
Yeah.
And Nick goes, that's Charlie. He says, what are you doing over here? He says, how could I skate? My fan club left.
Oh, jeez.
So he had just left the track.
Oh.
And just left the track, showered, left the game.
And that was it for him?
No, they spoke to him again, and they spoke to me. And him and I stayed just about the longest, almost the longest of any of the Derby people.
How long did you stay?
Probably about 2.5, 3 months.
And why did you leave?
Well, I wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay there. But
so it was not the game that they said it would be?
No, it was not the game that they had said it would be. And Charlie and I were both in the situation where we both had pretty heavy, serious bills at home.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really nice to look a gift horse in the mouth and turn your back and walk away. But when you have some financial responsibilities, you know, so what the both of us were doing, and I know Charlie was doing the same thing I was doing. They had this house that we lived in, mm-hmm. in Philly, and it was rent-free, of course. And I don't think I cashed a check the whole time I worked for them.
Is that
they
right?
all came home to. When I came home from there, when I left, every bill I owed was paid for about a year and a half.
Ooh.
You know, so that I could get myself established in something else. Because with Jerry Seltzer not in operation, and Roller Games being the only game that was going on at the time, that was going to be it for me. Mm. So that's what we had done. And then I forget the exact situation, but it had something to do with my dog, and I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. If they were going to take a bus trip somewhere and they didn't want me to take my dog or what. I don't remember, but that was my out.
Oh, I see.
That was my out. And I says, fine, that's wonderful. Get me a ticket home.
And that was it for you?
Yeah.
You came home, and then there was another lag of time before roller derby sort of resurfaced again.
Well, we didn't have too much of a lag of time. We all got together and we all put in some money. We went back and we skated Springfield, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts?
Yeah, and the Garden. But the plane flight, the cost of that had cost us so much money that actually we lost money on the proposition. Skaters tried to do this themselves. And then we came back here, and then there was a little lapse of time, and then Mike and Charlie and Don Drury and a few of the other people had gotten together and decided they would try to bring Derby back here in the Bay Area, because all the people here were looking around saying, well, what are you guys doing here and you're not skating?
Right.
You know, and we tried to get it to go here, and then David Lichtholz came in. In the beginning, he was just supposed to be promoting games in San Francisco. And then the others kind of pulled out on it, and he ended up with a total organization, and that's where we are today.
Great. And you, of course, were here in your training center. You've been running the training center for a couple of years now, training skaters. Is it disappointing? You spend a lot of hours down here, a lot of time training people to skate. What's it like after you put in a couple of years with somebody, and then to see them just not show up one day and never see them again?
Well, it's always been really frustrating. I had a team one time. I had, don't remember the team. Devils? Don't remember. All new kids. And we went into Chicago, and we would skate the games at night, and then we would go train in the morning. And what they didn't learn in the game at night, I was teaching them the next morning. And out of that team came 2 future women's captains. But also out of that team was 3 girls that I had a lot of hopes for who disappeared. So it became the type of thing as like when they would put someone new on your team. It's, okay, show me that you can stand the life of traveling on the road. Show me you can stand the injury. Show me you can stand the pain. You know, and the measure of your success is predicated by how much pain you're willing to endure. Show me that you can do this, and then I will give you my time. Because in the beginning, I mean, you start and you work and you work and you work, and then they disappear. And it just becomes, it just gets to the point where a great many coaches and captains don't want to deal with it at all.
Do you hang in there? You've been with it probably, well, you've been in there, I would imagine, one of the longest people who stay with roller derby at this point. You've seen it in its up times, you've seen it in its down times, it's very cyclical. What is it that makes you stay?
It's just that I feel that the game itself is too good to let anything happen to it. You know, it has to be here. It absolutely has to be here. You turn around, and every once in a while, something will pop up with roller skating again. I just saw part of that movie the other day, Solar Babies.
I haven't seen that.
All on roller skates. It's incredible.
Or the Broadway play.
And Starlight Express.
Right.
All on roller skates. Roller skating, okay, you take football, you take ice hockey, you take baseball. 2 kids alone in a sandlot can learn baseball. 2 kids alone throwing a football can learn how to throw a football. They can't learn the game.
Right.
You got kids up north and in the east that can play hockey in the season. But every single solitary person almost, when Leo Seltzer started this whole thing, 97% of the people in the United States at one point in time roller skated. So here is something that every single solitary person that walks in that front door can relate to. My mother has said it, my grandmother said it when she saw it, my uncles have said it, my cousins. If I would have seen that when I was your age, I would have done that too.
Right.
See, it's something, I enjoy football, but I would never fantasize that I would play the game.
Oh, right.
You know, I love ice hockey. I wouldn't get out there for all the tea in China. But this, you know, I can see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody can relate to roller skating.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everyone's got a shot.
Sure.
Let me ask you one thing, and I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but I've got to ask you, what do you say? What is your response to people that say, come on, roller derby, it's like wrestling?
No.
What do you...
That's it. No. There is no more. Anything after no would try to explain the game or explain away the no. So the answer has to be a flat no.
Okay. It's for real.
I had a football player one time. I was doing a talk show, and the host asked the football player, do you have any question you'd like to ask of roller derby. And this guy was a real nice guy. He says, well, the only thing I don't understand is it seems like the outcome of the game is always decided in the last couple of minutes. And I don't know where this answer came from. I turn around and I says, well, I said, you explain George Blanda to me, and I'll explain our game to you. Mm-hmm. Well, the commentator fell apart. And he says, well, now it's time for a commercial break. And the minute they broke, I told the guy, I said, I am so sorry. I says, I don't know where that came from. I said, that sounded like a real smart aleck answer. I said, I'm sorry. You know, I didn't mean to do that. He says, no, that was terrific. But see, that was the year that Blanda was kicking all those last-minute field goals.
Right.
And you know, I flashed on it.
Right. And
it's what I said. And then I told the commentator, I said, I've got to come off sounding like the biggest smart aleck in town. He says, no, don't worry about it, you know. But that was just, it was there, you know.
Right. Joan, do you ever think that there may be a day that you will have to hang up those skates? Do you ever think of it?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to be going around this thing forever. But I'll probably either be out in the front signing people in or out here with a whistle, one or the other. Mm-hmm. You know, to totally walk away from it, no, absolutely not.
You can't do it, can you?
No way, shape, or form. Mm-mm. Training, coaching, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Going to conventions, representing roller derby, whatever. You know, but I probably will forever be involved with it. But no, to hang up the skates, you got to take that on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. I mean, you never know. You go out and you skate, and every time you step foot on the track may be your last, mm-hmm. regardless of your age. You know, I got a lot of friends that went out there at 17 and got the injury that ended it. You know, my partner Kathy Reed, same thing happened to her.
Right.
I mean, she was a top skater, she was a star, she was captain of her own team one night, and the next day she was unemployed with an ankle that she could never skate on again. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to be realistic enough to realize, you know, you can't go out here with the Lou Donovan, I used to say, attitude. Lou Donovan, when he used to skate on the Bombers, got to really believing that his body was indestructible. Mm. And he would do something just horrendous, and the girls' bench would just go running over, you know, to see how he was. Oh. And, you know, are you all right, Lou? Are you all right? He'd say, certainly, I'm Lou Donovan. And he really got to thinking that he couldn't get hurt. But you can't go out there with that attitude. You have to realize every time you step foot on that thing that it might be your last.
Yeah.
You know, that's reality. Mm-hmm. That's just plain reality.
And I guess you're just having too much fun to give it up anyway. Isn't that right?
Well, to actually give up the skating in the games, I mean, as you get older, it gets a little harder. Mm-hmm. Your recovery time is a little slower. Your actual physical ability starts to go, you know, to go back. And I go out there and I skate. But if I go out to skate and I feel that I can't do well enough to be out there, I mean, I'll be the first person out the door. You know, I'm just not going to keep just skating around in a circle and not doing anything. Mm-hmm. When I reach the point where I feel that I can't contribute, then I'm not going to skate anymore. You know, it's that simple. And any team that I work with, I mean, the stipulation is there. You know, if I decide on a Tuesday that that's it.
Well, Joan, I wish you many more years personally of skating success and success otherwise. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Sure, Con, anytime.
Okay.